It starts with you and me. Then we create a community, bringing you a new point of view. Him and her spaces.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Him and Her Talk Space with Nene and Chad. We're missing Chad, but he'll be on a little later. So tonight's topic, we're talking about effective communication and communication in general. Are you effectively communicating? Are you properly communicating within your adult relationships, or even with your relationships with your children, with your family, with your romantic partner, with your coworkers? So we're gonna touch on that, and we're gonna get started. I don't know why I talk like we're gonna get started. So for anyone, this question is open to anyone. How important is communication in your current relationships? Is it important in your current relationships? And that's for anyone to answer.
It's hi, this is Tina. It's I feel like it's very important. You have to communicate because you can't expect your partner, your husband or boyfriend or kids to know what you want. They're
Right.
not mind readers. So without communication, you know, how would you know how to please the person or to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do and meeting your requirements?
Yep. Good. Chanel, what were you gonna say?
I forgot what I was going to say, but actually, based off of piggybacking off of what Tina just said,
Yep.
Tonight with my own kid, there was a miscommunication that caused a bit of grief
Okay.
because he didn't explicitly say something. Like, for instance, I went to Chick-fil-A, and when I went, he said, "Make sure to get the Polynesian sauce." Fine, I get extra Polynesian. I get back. You didn't get Chick-fil-A sauce? Did you say Chick-fil-A sauce? But I get it every time. I don't remember everything. You should have said it.
Right.
So it can cause a lot of grief in something just as simple as that. But I
Right.
know when people who have like maybe, intimate relationships, things like that take place because there's an assumption that a person should know what you want or what you're thinking, and that's not the case.
And I think, just to piggyback off of what you said, I think that's huge. And that people assume that we know, well, and even especially in romantic relationships, well, you should know that this is what you're supposed to do. And I think that a lot of times we assume that people are supposed to be obviously mind readers. But if you're not effective communicating, then how am I supposed to know what you wanted for your birthday? Like, how am I supposed to know that if you're not communicating that?
And I want to drag it over to and relate it to what Tina said about the people who are committing suicide lately, because I actually just had a conversation with someone, and we was talking about mental health and how people was like, oh well, that girl that just killed herself recently, how she didn't leave much information in her suicide note, and it was like her life was going great and blah 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 blah, but she wasn't able or didn't communicate the distress that she was in, because obviously people didn't have a clue, or they didn't read the cues that she was probably given accurately. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like a big thing too, because a lot of people are committing suicide, and it is communication could probably just be a part of it. I'm not going to say it's like the main thing, but the fact that people are left stumped like, oh, I didn't know anything was going on with that person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we just had another one. I believe it happened on Monday with the guy from Hunger Games.
From Walking Dead. The Walking Dead.
Walking Dead. Was it Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Wait, who was it?
31 years old.
A young black
guy. Hold on. What is his name?
I never watched it, so I don't know his name.
Walking Dead's Mosley.
Hold on, look that up.
He's 31. He was 31 years old. And yeah, he killed himself. And then Regina King's son killed herself.
Yes.
Killed himself.
And my co-worker at the last job I had, his brother actually had just killed himself back in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first time having an up close and personal experience with someone that committed suicide.
Right. And it's tougher. Not that it's tough because it's our community, but we didn't, unless it's just me and I'm just ignorant to it, but I didn't hear a lot about our people committing suicide until recently. And even for the girl, the one who was the Miss USA or Miss, what was she? I forget her title. But she
was like Miss USA of a state or something.
Yeah, but she literally jumped off a building, like a 60.
Wow.
She did. You know what I was thinking
stories.
too? You know what I was thinking too? The first thing that came to mind was that the way she did it, to me, symbolized something about beauty. And
How so? That's interesting. How so?
Because she would be considered like a beauty, right? People would say she's attractive, and the way that she killed herself was a way to destroy what people would deem as beautiful. She didn't kill herself and take pills or slit her wrist. She took a route that actually destroyed her physical body and things.
Right. It was ugly.
Yeah, so I was like, well, maybe that was the message. I don't know. That's just the first thing that came to my mind when I heard about it.
And did you hear she left a message, her last Instagram message? I think it was Instagram or something she posted was, I hope this day brings peace and comfort. And that was
it. Yeah, I did hear that.
Mm-hmm. So that's deep in itself. Peace and comfort for who? For herself? Was that for her?
I don't know. I would think it's for herself. I think a lot of people that commit suicide, they communicate, but they don't talk to you. They communicate with their actions. They shut down or they start acting different and be to themselves. That's stuff that I pay attention with my kids, because within the last few years, it seemed like a lot of teenagers and kids are killing themselves too, from being bullied. I don't know, and I say it, and I'm sorry if I offend anybody. But the kids nowadays, they punks. You bully somebody enough, they'll hang themselves. They'll kill themselves. They're not like regular kids anymore. So it's I kind of watch how they act. If they come home from school and they're not that talkative, or they don't want to eat, or moping around, I'll ask them, are you okay? Because your actions is showing something different.
I wouldn't say that they're punks, but I do think, coming from an educational standpoint, that they haven't had a chance to develop certain social skills or coping mechanisms. Because when we were younger, we had people that would pick on us, or we would have fights, or when we were playing out with our friends, we would have arguments, and then we would have to think of ways to fix it. And there wasn't no adults around to really fix it for us. We either stopped playing with the person for a little bit, or figured out ways to make up, or we had a fist fight and figured out ways to make up, or we developed social rules to games and things like that we held each other accountable for. So those are skills, that social emotional skills, that was developed out of necessity, and just the environment that we were in, that culture that we was in. Most of the kids are more sheltered, and a lot of their playing is more planned and supervised and things like that, where they don't just get to go out in the street willy-nilly and just hang. No, most of the time you're like, oh, I'm taking you to the movies, or I'm taking you to this party, or I'm taking you to this friend's house, stuff like that. It's not unstructured, really.
And coming from an education, because your background and everything in education, do you think that the era that we grew up in was more effective to fight off bullying for kids or what they're doing now? Like, because kids aren't communicating with their parents. Like when they, back in the day, like, Mom, such and such was picking on me and da-da-da. And then your mom was like, you know, either you fight them or you fight me. And it was done. But now kids are not talking to their parents. They're not communicating with their parents. And they're just going into their little holes in their little pockets and committing suicide, unfortunately.
I think that the way schools are doing it now is that because of like that HIV thing. So when it all started was when like that kid at Rutgers, when he killed himself, and the roommate ended up getting in trouble because he had secretly recorded him, being with the man or whatever.
Right.
And it became more of like the victim and the aggressor. Mm-hmm. When you really think about, or you break apart bullying at its core, you have people that, say for instance, bullies. Many bullies read people really well. They can pick up on their weaknesses. So instead of like, I think some schools should support people in those type of situations where you change it from like a negative to a positive. So people who have that ability can be good leaders. Mm-hmm. And on the victim side, you need to build them up so that they can, have a sense of agency or some type of self-esteem where, and then you have to take into consideration whether it's like some physical things that's taking place. But I think just to have like victims and aggressors is not enough. It's not enough at all. And they don't give the kids the opportunity to really engage in a way. Everything is so like standardized. And when you go into a lot of classrooms, it's a whole bunch of drill and kill, and they don't have those opportunities to collaborate. And then you have these assumptions about what is taking place in children's lives, because a lot of times people automatically assume that kids in like urban areas are experiencing certain types of things. Granted, some of them are, but then you also have other socioeconomic demographics that are experiencing things too. But no one really looks at that, because a lot of times when you get like those school shootings and things like that, they don't come from like the poor neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. They come from neighborhoods that are pretty well off.
Mm-hmm. Affluent, yep. Yeah. So in the case of the Rutgers, because I had my own opinion when that first happened with the Rutgers kid, and they were blaming the guy,
the Indian guy, yeah.
Do you think he should have gotten in trouble?
I think that there was more to that story than they let on. I think the fact that it was a white kid played a lot into who got blamed. Mm-hmm. There was a journal the contents of that journal wasn't released. So I feel like because of his struggle that he had with his sexuality, there was things that could have taken place prior to that, things that his parents could have contributed to prior to that they didn't acknowledge. So I don't think that he should have gotten in that type of trouble. Like, his life was ruined. That guy's life was ruined from he hardly was able to get a job. Like, he did his time and everything like that, but it wasn't the same. So a lot of things was taken away from him when they should have looked at the picture in a more detailed way instead of just pointing the finger at one person. Mm-hmm. Is he a contributing factor? Yeah. But what else contributed to that? He wasn't the only one. That kid was struggling for some time. Right.
And then my question on it, and this goes back to how effective we're communicating with our children, is what blame does his parents have in that?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right. But what part do they play? Yes, they go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what did they communicate to him about what was acceptable as far as his sexual orientation?
Mm-hmm. Or even the fact, not even that though. Yes, the sexual orientation, but what about building a stronger child, like building a thicker skin to not get, whenever you get picked on, that you can't run and hide and crawl under a rock. but at some point you're gonna have to fight back because the world is not.
That's what I was saying.
World,
like I don't think it had.
Place. Go ahead.
I think they used that as the scapegoat because it was there, but I think it was more to it than the bullying part, because he wasn't bullied in an ongoing, it wasn't a continuous bullying. He found out that he was recorded and then did that.
Do you think it was more of acceptance? Like his family and friends wasn't really accepting of him being gay?
That's what I'm saying. We don't know. There was a journal that they didn't release.
Oh, okay.
It was contents of a journal that they did not want to release. And I'm like, well, why not? It had to have something in there that probably could have exonerated that guy from assuming.
They probably lawyered up or something like that. Was like, well, we're not going to release this part.
Yeah, and that was his family. That was his parents and stuff that didn't want to release that.
Right. They probably picked on him because he was gay, or you know what I mean.
The parents, you mean, Tina?
Like yeah.
Yeah.
Or he could have grew up like in some type of religious household where it was just communicated early on that you don't do certain things. Who knows? But I got a cousin right now who's in the closet. And
how do you know they're in the closet?
Well, we all know that he is.
Right. But he think that he's hiding, that he's not.
It's not that he can't communicate that to his parents because he has a parent, one of them I know for sure, that would not be accepting of that lifestyle.
Yeah. So, and that's why so many like down low people, and I don't know.
What do you mean?
I was going to say something, but I was like, I'd rather not.
Oh, okay. But no, I and correct what I'm thinking you were trying to say, and if I'm wrong, you can say no, you're wrong. Is that a lot of our not even kids, but people who are within the community who are not able or who don't have family or support system to come out to are, because it's large. Suicide is large within the gay community as well, and that's because they don't have people to come out to, or they don't have that support system to help them when they do come out, because unfortunately people aren't, for whatever reason, aren't comfortable with them coming out, or whatever if it's religious, whatever their case is, and they don't feel comfortable coming out to their parents or have a support system that they can come out to and be okay to communicate that too. So I'm not sure if that what you're going to say. If not, then sorry.
But I also learned that a lot of, how like some people since a kid, you just always knew that they were gay or whatever. They've been very
feminine. This is what I'm talking about. I always had an inclination that he was.
Right. So and my thing is, I think their family know. They know. But
I will say I think that the family knows, but they are
not accepting it.
No.
But somebody, well, not really close to me, a gay person told me, when you come up like that and you're different from everybody, and you know that you're not supposed to like boys, or you're not supposed to like girls, but you just always grew up either being a tomboy like a lesbian or very feminine like a woman, you don't want to be gay. And I've heard somebody say that, like, they didn't want to be gay, and they struggle with that like really bad too.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that as well. But it's because there is a stigmatism still, unfortunately, about it.
Yep.
And that's why.
Right. Like they feel like something's wrong with me. Like, why can't I just be regular?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
True.
I agree. I've heard the same thing. Now, do you think that in your relationships with your parents growing up, and how you are today, do you think that their communication style hurt or harmed you now, looking back?
I know it harmed me because it was no communication in my household. It was just like yelling and cursing. And I catch myself doing that now, but as I got older, I taught myself how to communicate more, but I communicate better by actions and not, by speaking. Like if my kids act up, if they act up enough, I'll just take all their stuff away. So then they be like, okay, it's a problem. I don't have to tell you I'm a problem. I'm about to show you it's a problem. Just giving you an example, like if I'm married now, but if I have a boyfriend and I'm upset with him, I might not give you no ass for a month. It's a problem.
Right. Now, do you think that way of communicating from where you came from yelling all the time to now saying, okay, I'm just going to take stuff away from you? Was that a conscious decision that you made, or just so happens that's the way that's your style of communicating?
I think that's a conscious way that, a thing that I made, because I feel like you could tell somebody something over and over and over and over. I think it's more effective if your actions speak louder, like how they say actions speak louder than words. I'm not going to tell you, I'm about to show you.
Right. Okay, good. Chanel, what are you going to say?
I think for me, that like Tina, like we didn't really communicate affection and things like that. We didn't do those things. So I know for me now, I'm overly affectionate. Like when my sisters were younger, I was overly affectionate with them, always kissing and hugging on them. And even now, I'll do that with them because I've already established that type of normalcy, with the way that I communicate affection with them. And then for my kids, I do the same thing. I'm overly, like, I'll kiss and hug on them. But if someone else was like to touch me, I'll feel awkward. Right? So, or the sister that's like right underneath me, Kalima, we don't do that. But I consciously did that with the younger ones. And when it comes to like, I guess I ain't got no boyfriend, so I ain't gonna say.
But you have 2 children, so you've had boyfriends before. And that, do you feel like your communication as a child with your parents and your romantic relationships, when you did have romantic relationships, were they similar, or did you try to do something different, or how did what you were brought up and raised by doing as far as communication, was that the same, or did it change when you became an adult?
It was different, but I was more willing to be like affectionate and stuff. But when it came to like really communicating grievances and things like that, I kind of kept that to myself and usually most of the time for me, I'll hold things in until it's just like an explosion. And that could be a good or bad thing depending on what I'm holding in.
Right. And I think for me, with my parents, growing up, they yelled a lot. Like our household, we yelled a lot. And I think that as we didn't have the opportunity to speak our opinion or tell our problem, the way I experienced it, because it is what it is. I'm the parent, you do what I say. I can honestly say, as I got older and as I became an adult, both my mom and my dad became more open when it came to communicating. So I was able to express my feelings, and I didn't like when you do this, or I didn't like when you said that, or I don't like when you say that. Like even now, me and my mom, like we're mom and daughter, but the way that we talk are more like sisters or friends, because we talk about relationships. We talk about, things that as a child, and I get like as a child, you're not gonna talk to your mom about relationship, but you talk about, hey mama, like this boy, he didn't like me back, or whatever the case is. But it's different now because we're talking more as women, and that just naturally happened. So it wasn't some thing where she's still like, I'm your mom and you have to, listen to me. She still says that, like, wear a coat when you go outside, that whole stuff. But it's now more, I can say that my mom is one of my closest friends. And like, if I'm talking about a guy, like she'll even question me, like, oh, did you talk to such and such today? And like all of it, my relationship business. But that's how our relationship has grown, and the communication has strengthened over the years. And I appreciate that. And I take it from my childhood and what I do now. I make a conscious effort to try to communicate effectively. And because I know that not communicating effectively leaves so many gray areas, and so many gray areas can be cleared up just by communicating that. And people say, oh, well, such and such get on my nerves because did you tell them that? Like, What was their feedback when you told them that? Because if you're not communicating to that, now you just have this thing left up in the air of not knowing what happened. Like friendships for me ended. I have no idea why. Right? And I'm like, well, what happened? Did I say something? Did I do something? Can I fix this something? But the fact that those, whatever the problem was or the issues were not communicated, I'm still left in limbo. Like, what the heck? I have no idea what happened. And I think that and what I've seen and I experienced, and when I talk, just know that it's coming from my experiences. I don't know everything. Obviously, it's coming from what I've experienced. But within our community, there's the communication is so bad, even with the men and women in our community and how women want certain things and men want certain things, but nobody's communicating that to each other, and then we just sit here and assume that the next person should know what we want. Right. So I think that's important. But I appreciate the fact that my mom, now that my dad is dating on now 13 years. But my mom now, we're our level of communication, even with my sister, we communicate more. Because growing up, my sister thought she was my daggone mom. So I had two moms growing up. She still do now, but she's a little bit better. But we've become better friends by way of learning how to communicate better with each other. So I think that even though it was not the most effective communication growing up, I think over time that taught us, and I say us, me and my sister and my mom, how to communicate better now, because what we saw in the past it wasn't working. So we all made the conscious effort to make that change.
You know, like I say too, a lot of the younger kids, like say for instance the early childhood kids that I deal with, I've seen some that really communicate quite well, and I'm like, well, dag, I feel like I'm learning something right now, because that person just created these boundaries and everything, and I'm like, you're only 4.
Right. right.
But yeah. I'm like, I like that. I was like, I look forward to seeing what that will look like as an adult if they're able to maintain that. But they are really using some really good communication strategies this early.
And is that from the school that they're teaching that?
Nope, it's actually from, I guess, their parents. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Now, I will say, you know, in that demographic I'm talking about, it was a different socioeconomic demographic. It wasn't rich, working class, but definitely they are using like words and things. And I'm like, okay. And you can't do nothing but respect it, because they clearly stated X, Y, and Z. Like,
right.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. And one of my friends, she, her daughter, she's 5 now, I think. And when I tell you, this little girl is one of the best communicators I know. Like, she'll state her problem and then state how she thinks this problem can be fixed, and then the action that she's going to take to fix this problem. And I'm saying, okay, Miss 5-year-old, like, how do you can't like not that, because and again, that comes from, and I know that this person, their communication with their parents weren't as great when growing up or whatever as a child, and I guess us learning how to now communicate. But what I am seeing, and let me know if you guys are seeing the same thing, what I am seeing is that the communication between mother and child or parent and child is much more effective than communication between lover and lover, or even lover and or friendship and friends and friends. So it's better with the parents in the child versus an adult and an adult.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing anything different than that?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like kids are they let their guard down more than a mate. Like, they're more emotional and they're more, you know, compassionate, and sometimes it's hard for, and I'm speaking for like Black people, to show compassion, to be emotional, to let your guard down, especially with a mate.
Yeah. You know what I saw, which is very interesting, and it's so true and it's so sad at the same time. There was this meme that was on Facebook where they talked about how R. Kelly broke down and cried when whatever was going on. It was something that had happened. He was breaking down and cried when and then they made a meme out of it. And then when who was it? Somebody couldn't see their child. Tyrese couldn't see his daughter, and he broke down on social media and cried. And there was another man who broke down on social media and cried, and all three of those cry faces were turned into memes. And then they say, and we wonder why men don't communicate, because when they do communicate, when they do express their feelings, we make fun of it and we make memes out of it, and then everyone around the world, it has this meme, thrown out at this person who just literally was vulnerable and try to communicate the way they were feeling, and then we just literally made fun of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. But I think not, and that's true, and it's a shame, but the people that you're naming, their actions, they have narcissist, toxic, like that's their personality trait. So that's why I think that they made it like funny, like, oh, like you Mr. Big and Bad and boss people around, and you know what I mean? But now you're crying.
Even if you think about it, Tina, that aside, everybody can't identify that they are. We can assume based off of certain traits, but we can't sit here and really diagnose, but they do have that personality disorder or whatever. But if you just think about it at just a basic level, that here is a person communicating or expressing an emotion that is not typically associated with manliness, and people made fun of it. And that's not even just reserved for just those examples, but a lot of times we contradict ourselves with saying, oh, I think, say for instance, the thing with children, right? Like, oh, we want them to communicate, we want them to say blah, blah, blah. And then we may do something totally different to communicate that what we expect, what we said at one point is okay, that is not okay in this situation. So we give a lot of mixed messaging for things as human beings, and might not even realize that that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree. And it was actually, I just pulled it up. It was actually Tyrese, Kanye, and Will Smith. So they said when Tyrese had a mental breakdown.
I felt bad for Will Smith.
Yeah. When Tyrese had a mental breakdown online in regards to not seeing his daughter in 2 years, people laughed at him and he became a meme. When Kanye West had a mental breakdown on TV, people called him crazy and he too became a meme. When the world watched Will Smith listen to his wife tell him live that she had an affair, people laughed at Will and he too became a meme. Yet folks wonder why men don't open up about their mental health and their true feelings.
That's true. Men are taught to be tough. I think they're taught that, period. Like, how men will be like, stop acting like a little punk, you a boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And so with that, because we have a couple of, if y'all want to answer, if not, that's fine. Do you think that we are getting better at providing a safe space for not even men to communicate, but just communication and relationships? Because I think we have this ideology that men are supposed to be strong, men are supposed to be the providers, men are supposed to take care of us, and that they don't have that space in that room to be vulnerable. And also women are too emotional, like we're labeled too emotional, or we're crazy because the stuff that is being done, and we can't express ourselves because then we're thirsty or stuff like that. So do you think we're doing better at it, or how can we do better at it?
I think something's going on with human nature where it's just these paradoxes that are not coming together or aligning in whatever way. Because no, it's not. I don't think it is getting better. I also think that if we say at a macro level, I would say no, it's not getting better. Maybe in some micro situations where people are going to counseling and things like that, then maybe. But overall, we have this I feel like people have a tendency to take those experiences and use them in a way that can take advantage of a person or hurt them.
I agree. I agree. And I want to hear from everybody on here, because the women are doing most of the talking. But I think that, and this is one of the reasons why I enjoy the interactive podcast and why I would have liked to keep it, because my belief in the reason why I created the podcast too, and this is just a side note, has absolutely nothing to do with communication, or it does, is that I feel, this is my personal feeling, is that there's such a huge gap between the Black men and the Black women in this country, and that gap could come closer or even non-existent if we just communicated with each other, right? And if we had like the platforms like this to have that open dialogue and say, well, no, this is what we're feeling and this is what we're saying, and we can have that open communication, then that, even if it's just with us here, that can close that gap a little bit. And then you can take obviously what you've heard here and take it somewhere else, and maybe we'll solve the problem of the world eventually. But I think that if we don't talk about it, then it's never gonna get fixed, because it's always like and I think it's a part of the agenda, and this is just me, conspiracy theory, but I think it's part of the agenda to keep the Black families apart. Because never will you and this is kind of a side note, never will you hear in music that's not by a Black person them disrespecting the women, right? You hear it in hip hop, you hear it, like, so all these music that is geared to our Black people disrespect women. So it's again driving that gap. Never do you hear in other cultures, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I'm speaking from my experience, where you hear a woman say, oh, I don't need a man, right? But in our culture, we have this, and we have this constant separation of the genders of the Black family, and we're doing better. I can't say that we're doing better. And it was a statistic that was done recently, I think last year, where there are now 70% more households that have both parents in the household. This is great, and this happened over the course of a few years, obviously, but we're now seeing that coming back, but we're still not at 100%. And I think if we talked about it and we have the open dialogue about it, it would be back at 100%, or at least 98%. But I think that the first step in doing that is to have the communication and to talk about it. And I think, honestly, that will solve all the problems. If we all communicated effectively and properly, in my mind, in my beautiful world, that will fix all the problems, and we'll have all Black families back together again forever.
In some ways, I agree with a lot of things that you said. In some ways, I don't. But I do think it is an agenda to keep Black families apart. Like I've noticed, and I'm not homophobic at all, just like a large increase of Black gay men. So a lot of families are together because the men don't want women. They want what you want. They want a man. A lot of men, they glorify like Hispanic women or white women. So as soon as they like get themselves together, they go off to the other race. I don't know if that has something with your upbringing, like you need to be, high yellow and have like long hair or something almost perfect. Not perfect. You need to be perfect. You need to look like you're white or like a certain type of way. But that has nothing to do with communication. That has everything to do with what you want and what you think that you want to cherish and what you respect. Like I've said that plenty of times before, that I'm glad that that my husband like Black people, like Black women, because I feel like Black women is the most hated thing in the world. Just like you said, in the movies, in the music, all of that. Excuse my language, we're bitches and hoes. Do you hear that in any other music?
No. And not only that, Tina, like when I started like collecting different like doing screenshots of different ads that would pop up, and I mean even down to like Baby Gap or one of those type of advertisements where it would have like a little Black baby next to a little white baby girl. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so what is going on there? Or even animated, they'll have a Black man with a woman that's a non-Black woman. And I'm like, even this, like, it's just never ending where we're not portrayed as
worthy.
being,
Like we're not worth a
being
damn.
viable partners. And when you listen to different maybe YouTube sites and things like, I mean, that I've listened to, and they talk about this as their main platform. You hear a lot of the men saying, well, if you want to bring it back to communication, well, Black women think that this and they're that, or they communicate this way. Maybe they say that we are aggressive, or we want to wear the pants and this and that. And I'm like, but a lot of times when we are forced into certain situations, we have no choice but to take charge and do things, because we there to wait for someone to do that for us is not an option.
It's
like,
not, because they
sure.
they don't cater to us like they cater to the other races, so we got to do it ourselves.
Well, yeah, and like my cousin, like he had made a comment the other day, and I was like, well, how you know I ain't got no man? He was like, you ain't got no man. I was like, well, how you know I ain't got no man? He was like, you know why you ain't got no man? Because you too strong. And I'm like, well,
What does that
I have no choice. I have to go out there. I have to make money so that I can put a roof over my head. I can't sit and wait for someone to possibly, help me out or do those things for me. I have to go out there and do it. And I don't know if that's like intimidating to people, but that's just a reality that is true.
Right, but there's plenty of other women that's other races that's like lawyers, doctors, whatever. They're getting married too. So what's wrong with a Black woman that want to get herself together? And it's nothing. I'm not shaming Black men that like white women. If you like white women, do your thing. I don't want you. They want you, and you want them. That's cool. But and even me and my husband, we notice on TV, if you watch commercials, if you watch TV, a lot of the ads, they never have very rarely you'll see a Black couple together. It's always a Black and a Spanish, a Black and a white. Yep. And it's always usually a Black woman and a white man. Oh, no, I think I'm saying it. I don't know. I'm probably saying it backwards. A Black man with a white woman. And I think it's like Nene said, it's a whole agenda to separate the Black culture.
Because how is it that if they're controlling the media outlets and things like that, how is it that back in the day it wasn't acceptable? You had a whole 14-year-old kid that was murdered for whistling at a white woman, but now that's all you see in the media. That's the images that you're portraying, and that's across different media platforms, whether it's print ads or commercials or movies or whatever. That's all you really see.
Right. And I think because back in the day, like Black men messing with white women was like sacred. So now it's not sacred, it's fair game or whatever.
But the thing is, we don't control media outlets. So why is it that if we are such bad people, why is it okay for our Black men to be with your woman? Wouldn't you still say that you would want to protect? If they're like so into like white supremacy and things like that, why is it okay now for the mixing of the races, and more specifically where Black men are being intimate partners or marital partners with white women or Asian women or Hispanic women, like everybody except for us?
Mm-hmm. And what I think, and when I was mentioning, like, as far as the communication part, is that I think, and this is to also piggyback off of what you said, Chanel, is that we have no other choice but to be strong, right? Because the men that are available to us are not. Like, they're the ones that are available to us who are not in jail, who are not gay or cheating or whatever. There's very few and far in between that you're going to find a good guy. And I think that, and to piggyback off of that as well, that's what pushes the good guys away, because we already have this defense up, because we know that we're going to come in contact with this guy who's no good. So even when we come into contact with the guys who are good, we have this defense up, or this wall up, which draws them away and pushes them away to the more submissive race
but wait a minute.
Women.
But how are we even communicating that we got this defense
We don't communicate it effectively. That's the problem. All we do is like, all men are not. In general, not saying that you say that or whatever.
No,
but we have this,
No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that we have this thing where all these men are dogs and all men cheat, and not that you're verbalizing it, but your attitude, your personality, your stance says it when you meet them. Like they can, and I've heard this so many times where men, good guys, are saying things that you've heard from a bad guy, and you automatically assume he's playing games or he's running, he's whatever. Like, oh yeah, you or now you like me all of a sudden really fast. You just trying to get in my pants or something like that. But when this guy is actually just being nice, just to be nice, and he's a good guy, but we automatically push him off and put up an attitude and as if he's trying to do something else because that's what we've experienced. Not to say that you're wrong for doing that, because if that's all you know, that's what you know. But even for example, and I want to use this example, Tina, if you don't mind. My cousin said one time, my little cousin in high school, that he was attracted to white girls and Puerto Rican girls because they liked him. Like you tell a black girl, oh, your hair is pretty, oh, what you trying to say, and da 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 da, and it's an automatic defense. Why? Because they learned that from home, but why? Like, why? Where the Spanish girls and the white girls are like, oh, thank you, that's so sweet, or I like your new haircut, or I like your new sneakers, or whatever, and they're not getting picked on like, yo, you got on hot waters or whatever, because they're not focused on that. But we are, and we're raising our daughters to be the same way. But why? Because we're not communicating effectively.
Right. And I was going to bring up that point too, like, well, on the flip side, because the cousin she's speaking of is my son. He like all women. He like all races. He like girls. But whenever he's attracted to a black girl and he tries to talk to her, she gets smart with him. And I don't think that she means to get. I tell him I don't think she means to get smart. They may, but I don't think all of them do. That's just how we taught them to communicate. And when I think about it, I used to act like that when I was young too. Like if a guy was like, "Oh, I like your hair," and I'm so insecure about my hair. I got a new hairdo. I like it, but I don't know if everybody else is gonna like it. So if a guy that I like or anybody say, "Oh, I like your hair," what you trying to be smart? And if I'm trying to flirt with you, I even say this to my husband. If I'm trying to flirt with you and you just shaved your head and shaped up your beard and you look nice, oh, what you think you cute? Where you going, ugly? That's me flirting.
Right. But to me, that's like the cultural things that you even see in our movies and stuff. And I feel like, I don't know if it's just because it's a younger generation and again, they communicate differently. But I feel like when you were younger, you knew that stuff like that meant that somebody liked you, or, like it just, I don't think it was even taken like if you really think about the hood and we had those experiences, nobody was really like saying, well, I'm gonna go with a white girl because, Brenda said X, Y, and Z.
I don't think it's that. I think that it's not that Brenda said, but I think we've been taught, and even me growing up with my mom and my dad, I was taught to be an independent woman, right? So I was taught to be independent. I don't either. But that's what we're taught. To be do your own, and you don't need anybody to help you do that. But that comes across. And if you have in your mind that I'm gonna make my own bank, I'm gonna get my own car, I'm gonna get my own house, I'm gonna get my own this, and we then still expect these men to be providers, what are they providing if we have everything? And not saying that you shouldn't get that for yourself. I'm not saying that. But if we come across like you're coming into my life, what can you bring me? I have everything. I don't need you for anything. Then why then would I come into your life?
He can upgrade you. So this is my philosophy. This is what my mom taught me the same way. Look, they had the same mom, so they taught us all pretty much the same crap. So basically, you be an independent woman, have your own, blah, blah, blah. And now I agree with that. But when you get into a relationship, you are supposed to be the helper, and that man is supposed to be a provider. Meaning, Don't be a bum. Don't be a bum. You know what I mean? Don't just be like, oh, you need to take care of everything, and I can't take care of myself. Be able to take care of yourself. Be able to buy your own house and buy whatever you need. Yep. But this man should be able to take care of it if he's looking at you as a wife.
I agree, Tina, and that's what I think that when you sit down and have those conversations, like this is the expectation that I have when I'm going into, you know, a partnership or a relationship. And like, how is that being communicated and how is that being received? Because I see some things online where somebody's out there dating and then they may have casually asked the person, oh, well, what do you do for a living? And then the male gets super offended and end the date because he felt like the girl was trying to be a gold digger. When she was saying, I just was curious about what it is that you do.
Right.
And it would give me some insight to maybe what your goals are, what your experiences have been.
That's a basic question. If I'm trying to get to know you, I want to know where you work at and what you do.
But and this is where I say too that, and then Eric said we've been duped, y'all. That the problem is that we find out too late in life, though. But we've been duped. But what I think the problem is too is that that's what I'm saying. That communicate where we're saying all I want to know is what you do for a living as a general question. What they hear is, oh, what you bringing? How much money can I take from you? And that's where that gap is. That's where that needs to be communicated. But if no one's sitting down and having these open and honest and transparent communications, then that's going to be missed.
Right. But it's a big difference. It's a big difference with saying, well, what do you do for a living? Then what's your earned credit tax return on for next year? That's just stupid. And then you can't really go by that because you can be a factory worker, which is nothing wrong with working in the factory, or you could be a person making $200,000 a year, but the person that's a factory worker may have a better credit score than that person that make $200,000 a year, and that person may be on his way to the bankruptcy. So to me, that's more of a bum than the person that got themselves like halfway together.
And then I think too, where we punish ourselves, as some of us. I don't like to generalize. Some of us punish ourselves is because for some reason we got into our head that we have to find this 666 man, right? And if he doesn't fit the 666, then he's not worth your time. And that 666, at least 6 feet with 6 inches, making 6 figures, right?
Sound like a double to me.
Exactly. But you're not gonna there's more women than men in this world, right? The average man in America, average black man in America makes between $42,000 and $50,000, right? So, and then you have these men if you have these men that have this 666, you think you're gonna step like, and this is this thing that we've been taught, and this is from me, and I don't like him, but this is from me watching Kevin Samuels and these women coming on these shows having these expectations of what she wants, and if this man don't have this, then she's not dealing with them. And then I think that's where that miscommunication comes in again, is because I don't have to have 6 figures. I can have $50,000 and I can have more savings in my account than the guy that Tina says that has $200,000. My $200,000 doesn't mean that I'm a good provider. And that's another thing that's not being communicated. Or someone like ourselves who are educated and have degrees and good jobs and all that, and then you come and you present this to a man, that could be intimidating to him as well. But are you saying, I'm not coming to you and trying to put this stuff out here that this is what I have and I don't need you? I still need you, but it's not being communicated. And I don't think so, because I think we lead with our money and our possessions, that it's leading with, yes, I have all these things, but I still need you.
Right, but
that's not being
if you have a GED, a good job, a house, and a car, to me that's like regular stuff. If you're intimidated by that, then you need to go ahead and skedaddle, because if that's if that's intimidating you, then you're not ready to mess with somebody like me. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want you to mess with somebody like that. Like, oh, what, you got a degree? You got your own place and a car? Like, what are you, homeless and got a scooter? Like, what do you have going on? And then with that guy that you said, I don't even remember his name. I don't like his ass either. I don't remember his name, but I feel like he has deep issues. And some of them girls do go over the top. They want the 6'3" or whatever, but don't lower your standards. If that's what you want and that's what you know that's going to make you happy, when you're getting married, or if you're dating and you're old, over 30 or whatever, most likely you want to get married. Why be with somebody that that you're not going to be happy with? Mm-hmm. Why be 6 feet with a man that's 5'3" when you know that's not what you want?
Mm-hmm. I think you have to think about too, like, why is it just a matter of, what you're attracted to, or like, what is what do you plan on getting out of someone that has a certain height?
Right.
Well, I think for a lot of women that height means a protector, right? Because if you and me the same height, who you protecting? Like I think that kind of, has that feel of being a protector over a woman who's a woman that's a little bit shorter. That's my opinion.
With me, I'm just being honest. If I got on, I like wearing heels when I go out. I'm gonna feel kind of funny if I'm 5'6" and now I got heels on and I'm almost 6 feet and you 5'2". I'm gonna feel funny having sex with you and you're 5'2" and I'm 5'6". I feel like I'm a man and I'm throwing you across the room. Mm-hmm. That's why I normally like to date men. Well, I can't say that now. I'm married. I'm attracted to men that are taller than me. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Mike Tyson is 5'10".
Right. So I'm not going to want to date him because I'm scared of him, for one. And two, like with heels on, I'm gonna be taller than him. I'm gonna feel funny and he rough and tough or whatever. But like, I'm just giving you an example. Like when we up in the mix and he's like kind of short to me, I'm gonna feel funny.
I agree, and I'm only 5'2", right? 5'2", Lord, 5'4". I just gave 5'4", right? And I can't. I'm not walking out the house with a dude that's 5'5". I'm not.
You gotta have a 6-pack and your hair gotta look like this. One day I might have a weave. One day I might, have my hair pulled back in a ponytail. I don't got no 6-pack. You know what I mean? But it's just certain things I feel like certain people are attracted to, and I'm attracted to tall men.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, I was just saying, like, as far as like Kevin Samuels, what a lot of people don't realize is like when you get past his delivery, what he's stating is that if you're looking for these types of guys that have all of these things attached to them, then you're looking for a limited amount of guys. So you have a bunch of women looking for the same guys. And then that's why you have so many women that are in the situations that they're in, because you have a small amount of guys that are having kids and leaving these kids around because all of the women are wanting to be with these types of guys, because there's only a limited amount of these guys. The average height of guys in America is like 5'9", 5'10". And it's the same thing as far as salary. It's only probably like 9% of men in the United States of America that's making $100,000 or more a year.
And how many of those are black? What percentage of those are black?
Probably 2.
Black men. Right.
Probably 2. So it's like when you're looking, when you have these lists, like I've had nieces and cousins. I got a lot of female nieces and cousins. They would have actual lists written down. He has to make this type of money. He has to look like this. He has to be like this. Go down the list, and it's like that's not even feasible.
It's not realistic.
And then it's like, like you guys are older now, and you see a lot more than you saw 20 years ago. But back in those days, you had your pick. So you could say, he's corny. I don't want to be with that guy. I don't want to be with this. But now those are the guys that have. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like those were the normal guys, or those were the corny guys. But it's like things change when women get older. That's why I was saying earlier, like y'all been duped. And when you get older, you have to kind of settle, because it's like, it's like, like I'm getting older. I don't want to be alone. If that's the route that you want to go, I don't want to be alone. I want to be with somebody. So you start to loosen up on what you're looking for. But when you're younger, you do things like that. Like Tina said, if somebody compliments you, you get, a lot of girls get sassy, you get an attitude or whatever. I still see it. And I've been with the same woman for almost 30 years and I still see it. And I'm like, I ain't even paying you no attention. But it's like if you happen to look past them, they think you looking at them. They grabbing his phone and they looking down and they trying to move away from it. And it's like, yo, I don't
looking at you.
Exactly. It's a lot more to it. But these are things that I've seen come just me personally. Because I've gone through a lot of these things where a lot of women were mean-spirited, say mean things to try to embarrass you in front of their friends. And it's like just crazy stuff.
And I agree with you. Totally agree with you, Eric. But I think when you get older, like the things that I was attracted to when I was young, no longer matter now. So it's like I guess you do kind of got to settle, but it's like I don't feel like you're settling if you're not even attracted to that no more.
You grow past it is what I'm saying.
Right.
Because when you're younger, like I stated, you're young, you're fresh, and it's like men and women are different. You pretty much, most women have the pick of the litter. They get passes thrown at them all day, every day. Where guys, it's like, you don't know if she's really looking at me or maybe she's mistaken me for somebody. It's like, it's a give or take. So it's like, a lot of times you don't want to approach because, they might try to play you out. You know what I'm saying? And nobody wants to be in that situation. And as far as like, the difference between being younger and older and dating is like, a lot of older dudes, they do feel intimidated. Like if you're single, you meet somebody, you go out on a date and you start asking them questions such as that, they will feel intimidated because a lot of women, and again, I've heard it on Kevin Samuels, his thing that he has, where women are like, oh no, I'm not dating no guy that's making $50,000 a year. Oh no, I'm not doing that. He has to make more than me, or he has to drive this kind of car. He has to be this height. And you're like, yo, you 45 still talking like that?
Yeah, you got to get past that and get to know them, because there's a lot of stingy men out there that make over $200,000 a year, and some guys that make $50,000 a year and got their stuff all the way together because they know their limit and their budget.
But even too, the thing about that is, guys that age and the guys that are doing well, they have more that's coming their way. They have more women that are looking for them, fishing for them. Because they're established now. When in those early years, they probably were working towards that and they didn't have the opportunities, but now they have more opportunities. So then a lot of times women find themselves right back in the same situation where it's like you dealing with older guys that are going to have a multitude of women following behind them. Right. Even if they are 40, 50, 55 years old.
And that's where too, it's coming in where a lot of women are wanting these men who are established and all that, but the men now have, like you said, they now have to pick it up. They have multiple women coming at them, so now they have the opportunity to say, no, I don't want you, I want that. But if you think about the numbers that Eric just even threw out there, that only 9% of men in America are making six figures. Of that 9%, if your option is to have a black man, 2% are making six figures. So you have 2% of men that are making six figures. How many of those men are single and available to date you? Right? But then now you have all these women walking around bitter and 50 and single and mad because they have this list that they're waiting for to get checked off. But these lists at 40, 50 years old, these men are married already, or they have multiple women. Because they have they have $200,000 or $100,000 that they can splurge and spend on these women who will only take men with this salary.
And not only that, Kanisha, like as we get older, more and more women enter the dating pool. So you have a lot of guys who are our age that actually look at younger women now. So that limits it even more. And again, different generations communicate differently. So if you're communicating that you have these expectations and they have to meet these criteria, you're going to have maybe a younger female that is not well versed or experienced and maybe willing to put up with some other, things that other older females are not willing to put up with.
Say for instance, the thing that's on Facebook, the marriage club. It's a little group that's on Facebook, and they had this thing on there where they were asking, put up the age of you and your spouse, or you and whoever you're dating. I was not expecting to see the separation or the age gap between a male and a female that I did. It was like females 26 years old dating guys 54. I couldn't freaking believe it.
Yeah.
Really?
I watched this lady. Sorry, Eric, really quick. I watched this lady, Chanel, Kendra G, and she has men that's coming on there looking for women, and women on there looking for men or whatever. And the majority of the men that are like 40, 50 years old tell them they want somebody 24 and up or 25 and up, and you're like, dude, you're 50, you're 60 years old. What are you gonna do with a 29 something year old woman? But these women are going to these men because now they're young and their eggs are fresh, and they're getting these men that have money, and we still sitting in our 40s and 50s still bitter looking for 666. And that's the problem.
But that's what happens. And like earlier when Tina has stated about a lot of other cultures that she see the women that they're doctors and lawyers and stuff like this. I know this for a fact. My niece went to Syracuse, and her friends that she went to school with, they went to school to meet those dudes. So that's what their goal was.
That's
was to go to school.
That's smart. That's smart.
Yeah. So but where it's like a lot of our women are not about that. They're like, look, I'm trying to get this education. I'm trying to do all of these different things. And then later on in life, down the road, like you were just saying, Nene, the competition pool gets thicker. But you're older now. And
hey, Eric, that's what
education.
That's what Kate Middleton, the Prince William's wife, did. She transferred schools to get to him. Like, she was very strategic about how she went about pursuing him in their early years.
Yep, that's what they do. And it's sad that a lot of our women have been duped to think like, no, you don't need nobody. You got to go there. You got to work hard and forget about those guys and, do all of these spectacular things. And then when you get in your mid to late 30s, then you go find somebody and have some kids and get married. But now the competition pool is thick. They ain't looking for you no more because it's like it's a 50-50 chance she can't have no kid. I don't need that right there. So they're looking for younger.
Yeah. And the young girls want to have the babies.
Yeah.
And the young
part of the agenda.
A lot of young girls are thoughts. Like, ain't no more, you got to date them. It's just like Netflix and chill. So if they're young and they're going to put up with a lot of things that the older women are not going to put up with, that's their go-to.
Yeah.
But this is the thing too, that which are part of what I've heard just watching like relationship stuff or whatever, is that they're going to the younger women and they're going to the other women that are not non-black women, because they're not getting that pushback. So if I'm gonna date or if I'm gonna marry, why would I marry hard? I'm gonna marry easy, right? I'm gonna marry the 20-year-old that doesn't have anything to say or is not gonna talk back. I'm gonna marry the woman who is of another culture, who was taught to serve their men and not give me pushback. And if I choose to go out and cheat, or if I choose to go out and do whatever, it's like, okay, well, honey, as long as you come back home. I'm not saying that that happens with everyone, but the 20-year-old who's getting her Louis Vuittons and her all this stuff don't care. So go, but come back home and they're not getting that pushback. So yes, I'm gonna date easy. I'm gonna marry easier, as opposed to getting the pushback. Well, where you been and why you did it? No, I don't want to deal with that. So I'm gonna go to the 20-year-old and the other women that are not gonna give me that.
By the time they get 30, 40, they're gonna get that pushback.
A lot of times the pushback comes from a lot of our women just being in their own strength, just being strong. That's how they were raised. So like, a lot of men feel like you're bringing to the table what we should be bringing to the table, because to be honest, I don't care about your degree or your money. I'm taking care of this.
But then how long should a person have to wait in order for someone to step up and do that? Because like if a person has to survive, you can't really sit and wait for someone to, you can't assume that somebody's going to pay your bills or whatever. Bills got to get paid.
The problem with that is, and this is the sad part about it. A lot of times when they have kids early in life and they're not with the father, they weren't married, with the kid's father, they weren't married, that takes away from you. That takes away from God. A lot of times guys wanting to take you seriously or wanting to like be with you. That's what the issue comes into play as well. Because I know even on Kevin Samuel's show, like a lot of times you got to listen to what he says. Now, he is one person that, I don't agree with everything he says, but one thing he did say, he was like, now, if you get with somebody, I don't care what you do or how much you make. I don't condone that whole running out and cheating and doing all that different type of thing.
He is strong on that, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I agree with that. But like a lot of times women feel that their worth is what they can bring to the table, which is a degree and I got a job and I'm doing this, but men ain't looking for that because that's what we do. Men are looking for a fresh womb. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for a certain look. And then a lot of times you get a lot of women that are giving pushback as far as like, well, they ain't gonna look like that for the rest of their lives. Looks fade and this it. Yeah, that's understandable. But that's what they're looking for. It's just like a woman's looking for a guy that looks a certain way. That doesn't mean that he's going to look that way all his life. Where everybody wants something. It's just, I just think like that it just has to be a compromise and things have to be like Nini was saying, we have to discuss these things more and we have to get away from trying to one up the next person. And, because a lot of times you do get into the discussions where it's like, oh, well, black women doing better than black men. It's more in college and yeah, okay, that's nice and cool and all that stuff. Just like I always say, Cookie, she can do her own thing. She's her own person. She can get a job. She can take care of things. I'm in charge of this. That's just what that is. You know what I'm saying? That's my wife and those are my kids. I'm taking care of this. I'll worry about that. The weight of the world is for shoulders. It ain't for hips. That's not what it's about. So like, we understand that you can bring to the table. It doesn't mean, being submissive doesn't mean me telling you what to do and all this, that, and the third. It's just understanding that this is the roles that have to be played in a marriage or in a relationship. It doesn't mean that I can't take what you tell me and go along with it because, yeah, you guys are intelligent too. And I could take some information and be like, hey, that was good. Yeah, we'll roll with that. But at the end of the day, I'm in charge of this. I have to watch out for y'all. I have to look after y'all. That's just what it is.
Yeah. Right. And I agree with you, Eric. You're a good man and you come from a good family that taught you those values. But nowadays, it is some men out there that will sit back and put their feet up on the table and let you pay every bill in the house and let you take care of them.
But you know what? The first signs of that, kick his ass out. I don't.
But then that goes back to, you can't, and then that's when they give you pushback, you want somebody to take care of you. You know what I mean?
Because that's a man that doesn't know his role. See, a lot of people play this game nowadays. I have friends that are like that, where hey, my girl bought me this, my girl. I don't give a doggone if Cookie had the space shuttle. I don't want to drive nothing she bought. I get my own stuff. I used to have issues with her buying me a Tim boot or buying me something for my birthday. Don't buy me, damn it, nothing. That's just me. You know what I mean? But now it's like, I think that's a part of it, not to cut you off, Nene. I think that's a part of it too. Women are doing too much for these dudes, doing too much.
I agree.
And that comes into play here. You're doing too much, buying these dudes these jackets and paying all this money. Stop doing that stuff.
Right.
That's true.
I've been on dated guys before the rail. Sorry, I'm trying to talk over my daughter. um, and I've told them, like if we'll have conversations about that, like girls buy guys this and girls buy guys that, and they will say like they don't see anything wrong with it, and I will let them know like, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not taking care of a man. I have 2 sons already. What I'm gonna take care of you for? And then I'm looked at like I'm a gold digger because I'm not taking care of you and buying you gifts. Like, beat it.
Yeah, that's not what a woman's role is. It's just like when me and Cookie was dating, I used to have an issue with her just coming down to visit me because I court you, not the other way around. I come see you. I come get you. It's not the other way around. But a lot of times the roles have flipped, and being a strong woman is like, oh, we'll go split the bill when we go out to eat. And
I ain't splitting crap.
I'll buy him this and I'll buy him. I'm like, man, if you don't get out of here with your $2-3, we're gonna have an issue. That's just like me. Yeah, my dad was born. My parents were born in the 1930s, so they come from the old school. So I always saw my dad was like, look, this is the way it is, and this is the way you got to be, and these is the roles, and that's how it works.
Yeah.
And I think too, Eric, what I was gonna say is that mentality though is so far and few in between now, that the whole thing now where you see majority of the men, as opposed to saying, okay, I court you and all that, but you see men like, well, what you bringing to the table, like what can you do for me and all that, and it's very far and few. And if there are the ones that are still out there that's like that, they're probably married or whatever, but it's very few now where this generation. I think this is why these conversations are important, because not only do you get to talk to other men and men get to talk to other men, but we all come together collectively and talk to each other and say, okay, this is what I need for you to do, and this is what I need you to understand. Because I think we hear as women, oh, I need you to submit and I want you to, so I can take care of everything. But we hear that, oh, I want you to bow down to me or something like that. So there's a miscommunication. Or we hear men say, well, I want to be a provider, but then you also have those men that saying, well, I need a woman that's going to help me split the bills. Okay, so do you want to be the provider, or do you need someone to help you split the bills? If you want me to help you split the bills, I'm going to have to work and have to get an education so I can make enough money so we can live and not have to live paycheck to paycheck, but live and, be okay. So what is it that you want? Like, I think there's a lot of miscommunication, and there's one side saying one thing and another side saying a different thing, but there's no middle ground. And I think that's where the issue is.
I mean, and a lot of times too, it oftentimes doesn't completely clarify itself even once you get into a relationship, get married or whatever, because it's like kind of like that even with me and Cook. Like, of course I would like her to do whatever she wants to do. If she don't want to work, she don't want to work. But she's used to doing her own thing, having her own, being her own person. I don't have no issues with that. If she wants to go to school, do whatever, I don't have no issues with that. But I want to be able to be the type of person that if she don't want to do it, don't do it. So it takes a lot of work, and a lot of people don't want to put in the work. And like you said, people, they get like these terms misconstrued because in their mind they're thinking like it's like a person that hears the word ignorant and they think it's stupid. Ignorant just means you don't know. But a lot of people, don't call me ignorant, I ain't stupid. It's people don't understand the terms that are being thrown out, and even people that are throwing them out don't even understand what they really mean and what's behind them. It's just like you said, like being submissive, that can come from both sides because it's just compromising. That's cool.
Yeah. Any other feedback, guys? This was good. I liked it.
Thank you for chiming in, Eric. It's always nice to hear a male's point of view.
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you. Anything else, guys, that you wanna discuss? Or are we good? I think we're good. Well, thank you guys I don't know what the next week topics is going to be because I don't know what I'm doing yet. But I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate you guys jumping on as always. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you guys.
See y'all.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.